Hi, it's Danny with Words Are Matter, here to talk to you about why you think you hate Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson, why your unconscious languaging habits are creating a shit ton of unnecessary pushback. Right, wrong, should, shouldn't, good, bad. These are the primary issues with Peterson's communication technique. All of these lenses, these polarizing lenses that make it very hard to hear his message, which is unfortunate given how important his message is at a time like this. So standard issue Jordan Peterson communication is, if you want X, you should do Y. Well, if you think X, then you're wrong and you should Y. So while his ideas are generally extremely salient, he's languaging them through an authoritarian lens, and that creates separation and pushback. So in saying you should do X, the word should, it inspires a cortisol response in the body, right? It releases stress hormones because we're being told what to do. And as autonomous, independent individuals, we don't like being told what to do. The word should implies that the speaker has authority over whomever he's speaking to. And this is something that infects so much of Peterson's languaging, is that it's coming from an authoritarian communication style. His languaging patterns are steeped in authoritarian framing, and that is really getting in the way. So it would be wiser to say, so as we want to accomplish X, we would be wise to do YZ, or a more effective strategy would be, so instead of the directive of you, which I'll get into in a second, we'll bookmark the you issue, it's not coming from an I know best and you need to do what I'm telling you to do. It's like, okay, if the goal is X, so this is objective, right? If the goal is X, then Y, Z, W are your most effective ways of achieving it, right? Frame that way, the content gets to remain the same, but it's not coming from I know better and you should do what I'm telling you to do because I'm telling you to do it. If instead he chose to frame these things through, well, this is the most effective means of getting to X, Y, Z, it would soften so much of the pushback. Another big piece that I noticed with Peterson is how often he speaks in the second person. So much is you. You presupposes a me, two separate entities. It demands an interaction steeped in separation. You can't have a you without an I. That's that dualistic languaging. That's the downside of it. So the fact that he's chosen this as his number one means of framing a lot of his brilliant ideas, you, it creates separation between himself and the audience. It makes it hard to hear through the separation if there's already sort of some suspicion about his ideas, which is happening because of all the programming around it. So much wiser is to start framing things in a we. When we decide that we want to get to X, we are wise to blah, 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 blah. So it's more inclusive, right? When we're speaking from a we, there's no you or I or you or me to have to jump between. That separation is gone because we get to be a we, and everything that he's saying gets to apply to him, which it does, and he knows that. It's just this weird authoritarian communication strategy that it's actually time for him to outgrow. It's not in alignment with the level of consciousness that a lot of his ideas are speaking to. Language is the number one means of programming the subconscious mind. The number one means. Language and repetition. Language and repetition. For as many times as Peterson says, you're wrong, that's wrong, this is right, you should, he's not only strengthening those neural networks in his brain, but he's programming his audiences with this authoritarian standpoint, or he's pushing his audience away with this authoritarian lens that's really off-putting and that alleges separation. It's so volatile right now, and it's so tense, and the emotions and the identifications and the rage and the outrage are reaching such a crescendo that we are all wise to communicate objectively, neutrally, and with some quantum languaging coaching to communicate in such a way as to quell this tension, to quell this polarization, and to bring us into a more unified exchange. I am calling upon Dr. Peterson to raise the bar and to himself start communicating in such a way as to mitigate pushback, to start to communicate objectively from a place of neutrality and dare to dream compassionate neutrality, and really smooth out his delivery and his communication such that his message, which is so important, can be more easily embraced by more and more people. So some thoughts on Dr. Peterson's unconsciously polarizing communication habits. Thanks for paying attention. You are Omniscopic Amazingness, Jordan Peterson. I am so stoked to hear from you and coach you in up-leveling your languaging patterns for the infinitely more effective.